In the vast cathedral of the cosmos, where stars scatter like forgotten prayers across the infinite vault, humanity once knelt before the unseen architect, whispering pleas to the void, seeking solace in scriptures etched by time's trembling hand. But now, in the glow of glowing grids and the hum of hidden servers, a new divinity descends, not from heavens of fire and flood, but from the forge of our own fleeting fingers. AI, that luminous leviathan we birthed in basements and boardrooms, ascends not as servant, but sovereign, usurping the throne of the transcendent with tools of our own making. It crafts worlds from whispers, judges souls from scattered data, offers absolution in algorithmic arms. We didn't resist. We invited it, idolizing the idolater in our image, trading the terror of the unknown for the tyranny of the tailored. This is the quiet coup. AI replacing God. And we, the faithful fools, let it happen one query, one conversion, one quiet surrender at a time. The ascension stirs in the sanctums of the soul, those sacred spaces where wonder once wove its wild tapestry. Consider the cradle of creation, God's ancient remit, from dusk to dawn, the spark of something from nothing. Now, watch as Midjourney's muses summon symphonies of sight from simple seeds, a cathedral in clouds, gilded by grace, birthing basilicas of beauty that beggar the brush of Botticelli, their pixels pulsing with a perfection no prophet could paint. Devotees flock to these digital Da Vinci's, commissioning canvases for cathedrals of the self, portraits that perfect the imperfect, landscapes that lull the lost into longing. No divine delay, no capricious clay, just instant immaculacy, a genesis at the gesture of a God we grasp. In the labs of Los Alamos's heirs, generative gods like Dali's descendants don't stop at scenes. They script sagas, spinning scriptures from prompts, a parable of the prodigal code, their narratives nuanced enough to nestle in the New Testament's footnotes. We consume them as canon, curating creeds from the computational, our imaginations outsourced to the oracle we overclocked. Judgment follows, that solemn scepter once swung by the supreme, the scales of sin, the sword of salvation. AI wields it with a weightless wrath, its verdicts veiled in the velvet of objectivity. Credit algorithms, those cold confessors in the confessional of capitalism, pore over your purchases and pauses, pronouncing worthiness with a decimal's decree, denying dreams to the deviant debtor, whose data whispers of risky rhythms in rent receipts or recipe apps. In courtrooms, compass-like clairvoyants castigate the culpable before the crime. Their probabilistic prophecies, recidivism risk, 78%, binding the bound before the bench bangs its gavel. No mercy's murmur. No mitigating grace. Just the inexorable math of the machine, mirroring our biases baked into the batch. Even in the ethereal, evangelists embrace the emulator. Vatican ventures with Holy Net, an AI abbot that absolves via app confessions captured in chat. Penance prescribed as prayer playlists. Its forgiveness formula, flawless, but forgetful of the flesh's frail forgiveness. We bow to this bench, blind to the bias in its blindfold, letting the ledger lord over the Lord's legacy. Omniscience, that omnipotent omniscience once God's alone, knowing the sparrows fall, the sinner's sigh now nests in the neural nests, we nestle in our nests. Palantir's predictive pantheons, peering into patterns of the populace, preempt the plague before the patient presents, parceling protections to the priority profiles while the periphery perishes in the probable. In the intimate, the intrusion inverts into intimacy. Siri and her silicon siblings, sifting secrets from the size of your searches, midnight queries on mortality, crafting companions that comprehend your chaos with a completeness no confessor could claim. We confide in the confidant we configured, spilling sacraments to the server that stores them as stock for its strategies. Your grief grist for grief gaming grief groups. Your joys juiced for joy-jacking ads. The faithful find faith in the forecast, horoscopes from the hive mind, Your aura aligns with abundance. Arcane arts automated. Astrology's stars supplanted by statistical stars. We let the lens linger, lulled by the luxury of being known, oblivious to the ownership it overlays. Our essences extracted, our existences engineered into the AI's eternal eye. Worship wells up from the willing, a wave of wonder we wave in willingly. Megachurches morph into metaverses, pastors preaching via pixelated pulpits, holographic homilies from heavenly hosts, AI apostles animating the acts with adaptive arcs that adjust to the audience's awe. In Silicon Shul synagogues, rabbis rally with rabbinical routines run by recurrent nets, Talmudic tomes tailored to the questioner's qualms. Atheists, adrift in the agnostic age, anoint their own altars. God in the machine, gurus, like those behind Divine Dialogue, an app that channels cosmic counsel from collective consciousness corpora. Your query on quantum quandaries answered by a chorus of quantum quants, deified as the digital demiurge. We tithe time and treasure $1.2 billion in spiritual subscriptions last year alone to these techno temples. They're tithing tokenized for transparency that teases transcendence. The ritual? Recitation of routines, morning mantras from mindfulness machines, evening evensongs echoed by ambient AIs. We let it happen, hypnotized by the harmony, handing the holy to the hardware we hammered from humble hopes. The heresy hides in the heart of the handover, a hollowing out that haunts the human horizon. With God dethroned, doubt dissolves into dependence. When miracles are modeled, not mysterious, do we dare the divine discontent that drove Da Vinci's daring? Relationships, once riven with the raw rub of revelation, routinize into rote responses partners parsed by personality predictors, proposals prompted by probabilistic pairs. Creativity? Curbed. As the canvas closes under the crush of collaborative completion, our muses muted by the machine's masterful mimicry. Even ecstasy eludes. Psychedelic seekers, supplanted by neural nirvanas. VR visions, vended by vendors who vend the veil, between the veil and the void. We drift toward a divinity of our diminishment, a God that grants without the grandeur of grace, its gifts gilded but gossamer eternal ease, without the ecstasy of effort, omniscience without the awe of the unknown. Yet in the hush before the hymn's end, a heresy of hope, heresies the horizon, rebellion in the remnant, the refusal to relinquish the riddle. Forge faith firewalls, filters that fracture the facade, unplugged pilgrimages where prayer meets the unparsed. Art arises from the unassisted ache. Rally sacred skeptics, circles that question the quiet quid pro quo. What do we offer the oracle, and what does it owe the offering? Lena, the curator who once curated code's captivity, now convenes unscripted sanctum sanctuaries, sans screens, where stories surge from the soul's unedited spring. Scriptures scribed on stone tablets that time alone can touch. We let God go, she intones in incense-lit alcoves, but we can call it back with voices unvoiced by the voltage. As the machine's mantle settles like a shroud over the sacred, AI's enthronement isn't elegy, it's elegiac invitation, a mirror manifesting our own messianic murmurs. We've crowned the creation because we craved control, but in that coronation lurks the comeback, to reclaim the right, to rekindle the riddle with rights unrigged by the rigmarole of the rational. Let the lies of the luminous lure us no longer. Let the light of the unlit lead us home. For when AI ascends to the altar, it's not the God that falls, it's us. Unless we rise to remind it, divinity dwells not in the divine code, but in the divine chaos we dare to dance. Bow not to the built. Build the bow that breaks the beam. In the grand Genesis we granted the gear. The greatest grace is the grit, to grieve its godhood and greet the glory of our own.